Sefer hamidos, the book of traits, the book of attributes, the Aleph base book, sefer hamidos yesharos, proper straight, ways to act, ways to lead oneself. Letter Mem, chapter Meriva contention. Letter Mem, Meriva contention 1. There is no maintaining a stand in war as a result of the transgression of an oath. As a result of the transgression of an oath too. One who pursues his fellow man, God brings evil upon him in order that he will forget his fellow man from pursuing him. 2 with brackets, one who pursues his fellow man to attack or harm him, God brings evil upon him, the pursuer, in order that he will forget his fellow man from pursuing him. 3 through the recitation of Hallow, the Holy Blessed One will save you from your enemies. 3 with brackets, through the recitation of Hallow. 6 specific chapters of Tehillim traditionally recited together on certain holidays. The Holy Blessed One will save you from your enemies. 4 through giving honor to the Torah, a man is saved from those who hate him. 5 before engaging in war, it is necessary to pray to the blessed God. 6 each time that a person falls from his faith, he draws upon himself a rich and powerful adversary. 7 when a person prays about his enemies, he should pray in the morning. 8 gazing frequently at the heavens, this annuls the hatred of one's enemies. 9 when one forgets the poor, he does not triumph. 10 a poor man that is pursued by an evil man, know that the poor man is arrogant. 11 one who is obsessed with winning the Holy One, the Holy Blessed One, forgets him and hides his face from him. 12 when a person is in distress, his enemies rise. 12 when a person is in distress, his enemies rise. 13 one who is obsessed with winning comes to forgetfulness. 14 contention befalls a person when the person is presented with the opportunity to do a mitzvah and he dismisses it and does not perform it. 15 one who quarrels with the tzaddikim, it is certain that his thoughts are evil. 16 sometimes the location causes a person contention. Sometimes the location causes a person contention. 17 someone who has enemies should humble himself, and through this God will save him from his enemies. 18 when a person has enemies and he searches in all sorts of ways to find love them, through this they will be as absolutely nothing. 18 with brackets, when a person has enemies and he searches in all sorts of ways to find a way to love them, through this they will be as absolutely nothing. 19 when a person has enemies and he does not think of how to take revenge against them, but remains bound to the joy of the blessed God. Through this the Holy Blessed One gives him the power to avenge himself against them. 20 those who sin sexually, for the most part, are fighters with the tzaddikim. 20 those who sin sexually, with brackets, those who sin sexually for the most part are fighters with, i.e. against the tzaddikim. 21 when there is yielding, through this there is no fear at war, as if he is dwelling in an impregnable fortress. 21 with brackets, when there is the trait of yielding, humility, through this there is no fear at war, as if he is dwelling in an impregnable fortress. 22 one who is obsessed with winning is visited with incurable illnesses. 23 two who are quarreling and take their case before a Gentile dignitary. Through this the Holy Blessed One brings upon them a blow that cannot be healed. 24 sometimes the Holy One, blessed be he, hardens the heart of the wicked in contention against the righteous, in order that the wicked have a downfall. In order that, in brackets, the wicked and brackets have a downfall. 25 one who gives honor to an elderly man is saved from war. 26 one who recounts his quarrel before the Holy One, blessed be he, sees his vengeance on his enemies. 27 through strife comes poverty. 28 one who quarrels with his neighbors ends up being an object of ridicule to his enemies. 29 one who is denigrated and remains silent is called pious. And the Holy One, blessed be he, guards his soul. 30 fiery prayer, so fired up that it comes to his face. Through this his enemies fall and are singed. 31 one who is good and upright from his youth. Through this, when he has a conflict, many people will volunteer. Many people will volunteer and band together with him to help him. 32. One who seduces his fellow man and bars him from the good path cannot stand up against his enemies in the time of contention and war. 33. Through confession, the thoughts of your enemies directed against you will be annulled. 34. 34. A contentious person, it is certain that he likes sin, in brackets crime. 35. One who is reticent, no man can overcome him, held back from words. One who is reticent, no man can overcome him, in brackets compete with him. 36. When those oppose Chassidim and want to arrest them for their devotions of heaven, through this they fall and become despicable in their own eyes. 36. With brackets, when those opposed to Chassidim and approach to Jewish observance, brought into the world by the holy Baal Shem Tov and his students, or people who are loving of Hashem and do more than they need to, oppose, and when these people oppose Chassidim and want to arrest them from their devotions of heaven, through this, arrest them, annul them from their devotions of heaven. Through this they fall and become despicable in their own eyes. 37. For victory, say the chapter on the 8-stringed instrument, Psalm 6 and 12. 37. For victory, say the chapters which opens on the 8-stringed instrument, Psalms 6 and 12. 38. One who visits the sick, the Holy One, blessed be He, does not hand him over to his enemies. 39. One who has enemies should say prayers and petitions all day, and his mouth should not cease from prayer and supplication. Through this, the Holy One, blessed be He, will save him, and his enemies will be shamed. See also 46:40. One who is pursued will merit having children and grandchildren. 41. One who has enemies should request of many people that they pray for mercy for him, and he will have peace from his enemies. 42. When you have enemies below, it is certain that you also have enemies above. 42. With brackets, when you have enemies below in this world, it is certain that you also have enemies above in the upper world. 43. Through learning, one's enemies retreat. 43. With brackets, through learning Torah, one's enemies retreat. 44. By having trust, enemies will not be able to harm you. 45. By having submission, your enemies will fall into the trap that they prepared for you. 45. With brackets, by having the trait of submission, your enemies will fall into the trap that they prepared for you. 46. One who prays all day, through this, shame comes upon his enemies. Brackets, see also above. 39. 47. One who harms, literally did bad to, the enemy of a tzaddik will merit to always triumph. 48. When people speak bad about you, learn a Gada, the legends of the Oral Torah, every night. 49. Two tzaddikim cannot live in the same city until they have truth. 50. Through having trust, one's enemies will not rejoice in one's troubles. 50. With brackets, through having trust in God, one's enemies will not rejoice in one's troubles. 51. One who does not humiliate his fellow man, his enemies will not rejoice over him. 52. One who has many enemies, it is certain that their hatred is not justified, for it is impossible that they are all vindicated in his wronging them. 53. When a man has enemies, and afterwards one of his own friends and comrades also rises against him. When a man has enemies, and afterwards one of his own friends and comrades also rises against him, it is a sign that his opponents will stumble and fall. 54. One who has faith is not afraid from enemies. 55. Through prayer, crying out from pain, one's enemies will not rejoice over him. 56. One who has enemies and does not know whether or not he will fall into their hands should examine whether he falls from his level in service of the blessed God. Then it is certain he will be delivered into their hands. Should examine whether one who has enemies and does not know whether or not he will fall into their hands, should examine whether he falls from his level in service of the blessed God. Then it is certain he will be delivered into their hands. 57. For contention, learn the tractate. Sikha, 4 with brackets, 4. 57. For abating contention, learn the tractate. Sikha. 58. Contention comes through an association of evildoers. Contention comes through an association of evildoers. 59. Due to depression, even your friends will oppose you. 60. Contention is not found in one's home only when all the produce in the house has been consumed. 60 with brackets. Contention is not found prevalent in one's home only when all the produce in the house has been consumed. 61. Sometimes when many tzaddikim oppose one tzaddik, the Holy One, blessed be He, sides with them, even though the truth rests with the one tzaddik. The other tzaddikim draw the will of God to them. 62. One who calls his fellow man wicked, it is permitted to interfere with his business and to decrease his income by up to 1/3. 63. If a person does not have friends, and those who love him, death would be relief for him. 64. All things are created in the aspect of male and female, even kings. There is a king whose aspect is male, and there is a king whose aspect is female. The Holy One, blessed be He, distances them from each other, that they should not come to destroy the world. 65. One who is contentious, even if he is an intellectual, do not honor him. 65 with brackets. One who is contentious, even if he is an intellectual, knows how to study Torah, do not honor him. 66. In the place of contention, there is the Satan. 67. One who fulfills to recite the Shema every morning and night will not be handed over to his enemy. 67. One who fulfills the commandment to recite the Shema every morning and night will not be handed over to his enemy. 68. Through Torah and performing kindnesses, one's enemies fall before him. 68 with brackets. Through learning Torah and performing kindnesses, one's enemies fall before him. 69. Through being pursued, a person becomes fit to be a sacrificial offering before God. 70. One should always side to save those being pursued, with brackets, attacked. 71. The world would not continue to exist except for the sake of one who shuts his mouth at the time of contention. 72. One who forgets one detail from his learning causes antagonists to rise against him. 73. Through strife, that there is opposition on the tzaddik, wars are aroused. Through strife, that there is opposition on the tzaddik, wars are aroused. 74. When, in brackets, people, into brackets, when people speak about a person, the evil inclination has power to strengthen himself over that person, and one must pray for mercy about this. 75. One who has difficulty accepting appeasement is from the feminine world. 76. For contention, go early and stay late in the hall of study and learn Torah, or if it is impossible to bring those opposing you to judgment, if it is impossible to bring those opposing you to judgment, in brackets, in a based in Jewish court, and in brackets, pray about them, and the Holy One, blessed be He, will knock them down, but do not hand them over to a official, but do not hand them over to a, in brackets, non-Jewish, and in brackets, official. 77. One who has cause to retaliate against his friend and remains silent about it, the Holy One, blessed be He, does justice for him. 78. Do not contend with a man who is stronger than you, even though he drives you to do something dishonorable. However, if he has fear of the governor, go with him to an official, and do not do the dishonorable thing. 79. Through evil speech, there are losses in war. 79 with brackets. Through evil speech, tale-bearing, lashon hara, there are losses fallen in war. 80. One who refrains from speaking slander, tale-bearing, literally evil language, triumphs. 81. One who was accustomed, in brackets, one who was accustomed to review, in brackets, Torah, and in brackets, and then separated. Through this, his enemies will pursue him. 81. One who was accustomed to review Torah, and then separated, ceasing his study of the Torah. Through this, his enemies will pursue him. When 82, when a man's wife bleeds outside of the time of her period, it is certain that some hatred has been aroused against him. 83. When the tzaddik has a conflict with someone and can save himself through monetary means, he should save himself and not use his merits, literally righteousness. 84. In all perpetrators of conflict, There are sparks from the souls of Dusan and Aviram. 85. Conflict. Nanach Nachmon Nachman. Meyuman. 85. Conflict between two tzaddikim is for the good of the Jewish people. Know that this is true, for also above there are two angels who are also in conflict, and there is no one to adjudicate. Machria. And there is no one to adjudicate for them except for the Holy One, blessed be He Himself. 86. One who hears his degradation and remains silent through this, great evils that were fit to come upon him are nullified. 87. The Holy One, blessed be He, always assumes a position in favor of the majority. However, if the majority is evildoers, He does not favor them. However, with brackets, however, if the majority is comprised of evildoers, He does not favor them. 88. One must not give the benefit of the doubt to a seducer. 88 with brackets. One must not give the benefit of the doubt, interpret his actions in a favorable manner to a seducer, someone who tries to bring people to foreign beliefs. 89. When there is a conflict between two people and each one has people taking his side, when from above death is decreed upon one of the disputants, God forbid, it begins with the smallest, it begins with the least involved, and not with the person who is the main contender. 89 again with brackets. When there is a conflict between two people and each one has people taking his side, when from above death is decreed upon one of the disputants, God forbid, it begins with the smallest, least involved, and not with the person who is the main contender. 90. Sometimes it is decreed on a man that his seed will be wiped out. However, when he is delivered into his enemy's hands, the decree of the destruction of his seed is annulled. 91. One who distances a man from the service of the blessed God. Through this, that man will have descendants who will afflict the descendants of the one who distanced him. Through this, that man will have descendants who will afflict the descendants of the one who distanced him. 92. One who has the ability to protest the wicked and does not, it is as if he himself did the wrong. 92 with brackets. One who has the ability to protest the deeds of the wicked and does not, it is as if he himself did the wrong. 93. One who sustains a conflict, transgresses a negative commandment, and it befits him to become a leper. 94. One who challenges the kingship of the house of David is fit to be bitten by a snake. 95. Through being involved in studying Torah, one can withstand the vicissitudes of war. Through being involved in studying Torah, one can withstand the vicissitudes of war. 96. One must strengthen oneself against those who hate him and wage war upon them cunningly. And the Holy One, blessed be He, will do what is right in His eyes. And with brackets, and know that the Holy One, blessed be He, will do what is right in His eyes. 97. In situations of conflict, it is auspicious, a segula, to say the passages, and also call to God until mortal. Chronicles 2:14-10. 98. One who does not put his trust in God, through this he is confronted with war and conflict. 91. Through the study of Torah, fear falls upon the nations, that they do not wage war against war against Yisrael. 100. In situations of conflict say, and he said, God of our forefathers, until for our eyes are turned to you. What was said by Yehoshaphat what was said by Yehoshaphat. With brackets 100. In situations of conflict say, and he, King Yehoshaphat, said, God of our forefathers, until for our eyes are turned to you. What was said by Yehoshaphat. Chronicles 2:26-12. 101. In a time of war, one must prepare the weapons of war appropriately, and the Holy One, blessed be He, will do according to His will. But do not rely on miracles. 102. One who establishes a fixed place for his prayer, his enemies fall beneath him. 103. One should not pray for the death of any man, even an apostate, for it is better to kill them by mortal means rather than by the hand of heaven. 104. Do not provoke an evildoer, all the more so one whose hour of fortune is at hand. 104 with brackets, do not provoke an evildoer, all the more so, don't start up with one whose hour of fortune is at hand. Literally, the hour is laughing for him. 105. It is permissible to not admit the truth and deny it in order that people do not be led astray after. 105 with brackets, it is permissible to not admit the truth and even deny it in order that people not be led astray after an evildoer. 106, due to baseless hatred, a person will have great conflict in his house. 107, a sword and great plundering come through the sin of procrastinating justice, distorting and ruining judgment, and from neglect of Torah. 107 brackets, blows from a sword and great plundering come through the sin of procrastinating justice, distorting and ruining judgment, and for neglect of Torah study. 108, a woman at the end of her menstrual period who passes between two men causes strife between them. 109, a pursued person who placates the pursuer. Through this, harsh judgment is aroused upon the pursuer. 109 with brackets, a pursued, attacked person who placates the pursuer. Through this, harsh judgment is aroused upon the pursuer. 110, one who gives sustenance to his enemy causes a decree of burning on the enemy. 111, second part of contention, meriva. 1. Talking about its tzaddik causes philosophy to gain strength in the world, and so to the opposite. 1 with brackets, talking bad about its tzaddik causes heretical philosophy to gain strength in the world, and so too the opposite, i.e. praising a tzaddik strengthens faith. Nachman, you and two. There are famous religious leaders whose fame is primarily created through controversy. 3, through strife. 1 falls into sexual lust. 4, one against whom many arise to challenge him on account of his faith, and he stands up against them and makes well-received counterclaims. Through this, he will merit having many children, and the world will be filled with his seed. 5, one who always sets his mind's eye to investigate the leaders of the generation, examining them unfavorably, literally with a bad eye. Through this, he falls into the hunger predicted for the future, that is to say, not a hunger for bread. For the Hebrew word for hunger, ra'ah, is the word Nachman, miuman. For the Hebrew word for hunger, ra'av, is the word Rav is Rosh Tevis ayin b'toich rav, putting a bad eye on in the rav. Once again, for the Hebrew word for hunger, ra'av, resh ayin base, is the Rosh Tevis ayin b'toich rav, ayin b'toich rav, ra'av, which means not hungry for bread. He puts his eye in on the rav, on the rabbi. 6, through giving charity, one defeats his enemies through minimal means, and the Holy One, blessed be He, saves him from even the great means of his enemies. 6, with brackets, through giving charity, one defeats his enemies through minimal means, cause or effect, and the Holy One, blessed be He, saves him from even the great means of his enemies. 7, by saying birchas hamazon, the blessing after the meal, which fulfill the Torah mandate, you shall eat, be satisfied, and bless the Lord your God. The blessed God becomes known in the world. Also through grace after meals, the government is rested from strife and war. 8. One whose Torah learning is with a pure mind. Eating, meaning that in brackets, one whose Torah learning is with a pure mind, with brackets including that his, and the brackets eating is so holy that he is nourished from the food from the, in brackets, same, and the brackets, food from which the angels are nourished, causes that his enemies be punished with strangulation. A sign or hint to the veracity of this matter is 3 similar biblical phrases. And it was on the 3rd day, at the beginning of the morning, and in the morning there was a layer of dew, and it was in the watch of the morning. 9. The suffering and accusations that come upon a Torah sage cause him to forget. 10. Quarreling causes that students of small stature become famous before their time. This is an aspect of miscarriage. When a fetus comes into the air of the world before its time, this causes poverty and sometimes causes deaths. God forbid. And sometimes in brackets, even in the brackets, causes deaths. God forbid. 11. Sometimes a man does not have peace in his house, and all the members of his household quarrel with each other. It is certain that there are demons in the house causing all this, and through this affliction comes upon his household. 12. Memon. Sometimes a person's place causes him quarrels for the same reason as it is forbidden to ask. For the same reason as it is forbidden to ask about a person's peace in an unclean place. 12 with the brackets. Sometimes a person's place causes him quarrels. For the same reason as it is forbidden to ask about a person's peace in an unclean place. The Hebrew word for peace, shalom, is the name of God and should not be spoken in a filthy place. Thus we find that certain places are contrary to peace. 13. Through pain and sadness, contention comes to the world. In brackets, conversely, end of brackets, conversely, through joy, peace comes to the world. 14. Revelation of the Torah comes through peace. 15. Through the business or work that a man strains to do on a fast day. This matter saves him from enemies and murderers. 16. One who has enemies has difficulty concentrating in prayer. 17. One who causes a separation between a man and his wife, that is, he goes to the husband and glorifies the wife in his eyes, and then goes to the wife and discredits the husband in her eyes until it causes a separation between them, causes difficulty with his own livelihood. So through this, causes, now is what it says inside, causes difficulty with his own livelihood. 18. When the Holy One, blessed be He, sees that there is a tzaddik who has the power to draw people to the service of God, he raises up enemies against him in order to enable him to draw people close, in brackets, to God, and in brackets, for a tzaddik without enemies cannot draw anyone close. Just like in the days of the Mashiach, the world will dwell in tranquility, and then no new converts will be accepted. 19. Due to idolatrous thoughts, enemies come and dominate, literally elevate over a person. 20. One whose enemies rise up falls into lust for food. 20. With brackets, one whose enemies rise up against him falls into lust for food. 21. When a person feels itching in his body, you should know that he has enemies. Sometimes through the blows and bruises he brings upon his own body, he is saved from enemies. For one is in exchange for the other. 22. There are two tzaddikim, one of whose words are in plowing, one of whose words are in plowing, and the others in harvesting, or one whose words erect the bris, in brackets, circumcision, a holy reference to the male covenant, and in brackets, or one whose words erect the bris for relations, and the other's words draw the seed and create the fetus in its mother's womb, and cultivate it, raise it up, and cultivate it. Thus, when there is an argument between these two tzaddikim, an outsider should not involve himself in their words, that they speak one on another in order not to ruin the goal. 23. One who has enemies should prohibit himself from wine, and through this he will become their head. 24. A skula, to be saved from one's enemies, whether they are enemies in controversy or enemies on the routes of travel. Route. whether they are enemies in a school to be safe from one's enemies, whether they are enemies in controversy or enemies on the routes of travel, or enemies on the routes of travel of whom he is afraid, is to say all the names of the Tamim. Incantation notes of the Torah is to say all the names of the Tamim. Is to say all the names of the Ta'amim. Incantation notes of the Torah, that is Pashta minach zarka v'chilei, that is Pashta minach zarka v'chilei. Nanach nachmo miyuman, chapter mamon. One who ridicules, his livelihood is diminished. 2. The speech of the sages brings wealth. 2. The speech with brackets, 2. The speech, terminology, and phraseology of the sages brings wealth. 3. Wealth does not endure on account of not having mercy on people. 4. One who stands and attests. One who stands in a test of sexual immorality will merit to great wealth amidst his enemies. 5. Great is work, being that God warned about it, that a person should do some type of work. 6. Such as ourselves should borrow in order to eat. 6 with brackets, people weak, such as ourselves, should borrow in order to eat. 7. One who wants to become wealthy should deal in small animals in a remote location. In a remote location, or in plowing things. 7 with brackets, one who wants to become wealthy should deal in small animals, translator note, like sheep and goats, in a remote location, or in dealing with plowing things. 8. Eating and drinking should be below his means, and he should dress and cover himself according to his means, and he should honor his wife and children beyond his means. 8. In brackets, the amount a person spends on eating and drinking should be below his means, and he should dress and cover himself according to his means, and he should honor his wife and children beyond his means. 9. Poverty in a man's house is harder than 50 plagues, in brackets, like those of Egypt. 10. A man's wife does not die unless others ask him for money, and he does not have it. 11. The power that the non-Jewish nations have to steal from Israel comes from their studying the scriptures. 12. Wine brings poverty. 13. A man who has a cognizance in the end becomes wealthy. 14. One who steals from his fellow man, through this they make him impure with the impurity of subconscious emission. With the impurity of subconscious emission. 15. When some new understanding comes to a man, it is certain that great wealth is literally attached to its heel. It is certain that great wealth is at its heel. It is certain that great wealth is literally attached to its heel. 16. Money of a Jew that falls into the hands of a Gentile immediately becomes permissible. 17. One whose sons and daughters are enduring famine, through this he is spared from the judgment of burning. That is one of the 4 death sentences of the religious courts. 18. One who disregards the safeguards the rabbis established to protect the Torah becomes poor. One who disregards the safeguards the rabbis established to protect the Torah becomes poor. 19. One who overcomes his lust of eating merits to a nice abode. 20. A man's livelihood is paramount to the splitting of the Red Sea, and more than the redemption, and twice as difficult as childbirth. 21. Whence a person is appointed as a parnas of a group, he becomes wealthy. 21 with brackets, whence a person is appointed as a parnas, president, to manage the welfare of a group, he becomes wealthy. 22. The incense makes wealthy. 22. The incense with brackets, the incense offered in the temple makes wealthy. 23. A person should not worry, saying, so and so will curtail my livelihood, for against their will they will seat you in your place and call you by your name, with brackets, for against their will they will seat you in your rightful place and call you by your rightful name. 24. On account of 4 things, the possessions of householders fall into continuous reduction. For for delaying the payment of employees, for fully denying employees their salary, and for casting off responsibility from their necks and placing it on their fellows, and for arrogance. 25 changing one's place and name are beneficial for making a livelihood. 26 the rain is only withheld due to not giving terumas and tiths. People who speak lashon hara, haughty people, annulling study of the Torah and the sin of stealing. Again, with brackets, 26 the rain is only withheld due to not giving terumas, portions for priests, and tiths. People who speak lashon hara, bad talk, slander, haughty people, annulling study of the Torah. Haughty people, brazen-faced people. Haughty people, brazen-faced people, annulling study of the Torah and the sin of stealing. 27, a rectification for rain. Make abundant prayer. With brackets, 27, a rectification for lack of rain. Make abundant prayer. 28, through faith. Livelihood is abundant. 29, when there is prosperity, literally satiation. Antonym of famine in the world. When there is prosperity in the world, physical weaknesses are diminished. 30, the rain is only withheld due to those who publicly pledge charity and do not give. 31, disgusting things in the house bring poverty. 31 with brackets, disgusting things or actions in the house bring poverty. 32, three things bring a man to poverty. One who urinates in front of his bed naked. 2, one who is careless in ritual hand washing. And 3, one whose wife curses him in front of him. 33, giving tithes is conducive, a segula, to wealth, specifically in the land of Israel. 34, honor to the Torah and honor to the Shabbos is a segula conducive for wealth. 35, the kazayas, measure like that of an olive, of bitter herbs that is eaten on Passover, Pesach, is a segula conducive for wealth. 36, writing a Torah scroll is a segula conducive for livelihood. 37, a daughter of a Kohen marrying a common Jew, or a daughter of a Torah scholar marrying an unlearned man, brings him to poverty. 38, joining forces with one whose hour of fortune is at hand is good for success. Joining forces with one whose hour of fortune is at hand is good for success. 39, one who loves God in the midst of his eating, drinking, and other pleasures merits supporting many nations. 41, who despises money merits length of days. 41, one who searches after treasures brings his time of death closer. 42, Nachman miyuman, one who has not rectified the sins of his youth becomes impoverished. 43, one who exhausts himself day and night for an income and does not attain it, his rectification is to bring others back in repentance. 44, one who breaks some vessel unintentionally, it is certain that he is a sinner. 45, one who is enthusiastic to work the land, certainly he is of no benefit. 45 with brackets, one who is enthusiastic bent to work the land, certainly he is of no benefit. 46, in everything you do, ask the tzaddik to pray on your behalf. 47, 46, in everything you do, ask the tzaddik to pray on your behalf. 47, constant joyfulness is conducive a segula for success. 48, derech eretz needs encouragement. 48 with brackets, derech eretz, trade or occupation needs encouragement, strengthening. 49, one who includes God in his pain, his income is doubled. One who includes God in his pain, his income is doubled. Also, his income flies to him like a bird. 50, through the sin of neglecting trumas, portion given to the priests, and tith giving, a profit is lost, and people run after their income and do not attain it. 51, rain is given in the merit of individuals, and income is given in the merit of the many. But an individual whose merit is great is considered like the many. 52, through the kiddush made over wine, rain comes, and his prayers are heard. 53, one who keeps his father's Torah scroll in his house merits wealth. 54, rain comes in the merit of one man. Oh, one field and one blade of grass, and in the merit of the land, and kindness and suffering, and in the merit of the land, and kindness and suffering. 55, the rains are withheld due to idol worship, and because of promiscuity, and due to a tzaddik who is not eulogized according to law, i.e. befittingly, and due to those who diminish the income of others. 56, through poverty, one is spared from the punishment of hell. 57, through using holy names come poverty and death. And even to someone who is able to protest, and even to someone who is able to protest it and does not. 58, when someone is in a position that he should be screaming out against his fellow man who is stealing from him, even jeopardizing his food, but is silent, because God does justice for him. 58, when someone is in a position that he should be screaming out against his fellow man who is stealing from him, even jeopardizing his food, but is silent, God does justice for him. 59, when a man sees that his food is limited, he should give of it to charity. 59, when a man sees, with brackets, when a man sees that his food income is limited, he should give of it to charity. 60, worry and strain over his income diminishes the strength of a man. 60, brackets, worry and strain over his income, food, diminishes the strength of a man. 61, through promiscuity comes poverty. 62, sometimes when a tzaddik has no fortune with respect to income, opposers are brought up against him, and through this he is given the income that was intended for them. 63, one who is involved with construction becomes poor. 64, modesty is conducive, a skula, for wealth. 65, from the time that people with a narrow eye began to proliferate, there was a proliferation of those who curtail the income of others. 65, with brackets, from the time that people with a narrow, envious, stingy eye began to proliferate, there was a proliferation of those who curtail the income of others. 66, the sustenance of a person is diminished when he does not judge others with the benefit of the doubt. 67, also when he mixes water with his drinks. 68, also when a person listens to the advice of a seducer. 69, also when one commits a sin in order to anger, in brackets, God, and in brackets, he becomes poor, and the world does not believe him that he is poor. 70, one who deals with impure names and witchcraft becomes poor. 71, when the sickness of weakening of the flesh, which is called dar, comes upon one of the members of one's household, it is an omen of poverty. 72, and 1, when some shame comes upon a person, it is an omen of poverty. 73, when one despises money, he is taught from above the ways he should go. 74, sometimes the death of Kores, dying early due to certain sins, is replaced with poverty. 75, a poor person is confused like a drunkard. 76, through overcharging one becomes impoverished. 76, with brackets, through overcharging, this word can be translated as verbal abuse. One becomes impoverished. 77, one who conducts his affairs in haste with an unsettled mind falls into debt. 78, one who curtails the livelihood of another is as if he murdered him. 79, a man should always hold fast to the estate of his forefathers and not sell or exchange them, and not sell or exchange them. 80, one who desires money, he falls from his level. 81, through apostasy comes poverty. 82, one who is poor should strive to provide food to those who beseech God. Nachman miyuman. 83, faith is good for livelihood. 84, pain in the eyes is an omen for poverty. 85, through submission a man's livestock increases. 86, through charity one merits to a livelihood. 87, one who gives money to sorcerers causes that his livelihood will be dependent on a Gentile household. 88, the words of the tzaddik bring income. Nachman miyuman. 89, depression causes loss of income. At 90, through giving charity you will have expansion. 91, a lot of sleep brings a person to poverty. 92, one who involves himself in Torah and charity merits wealth. 93, esteem your wives so that in that way you become wealthy. 93, again, esteem your wives so that in that way you become wealthy. 94, blessing is not prevalent in the house of a man except for the sake of the honor of his wife. 95, one who lends on interest, his possessions collapse and do not rise. 96, through the annulling of irreverent music. Irreverent. 96, through the annulling of irreverent music, prices are lowered. 97, one who has no livelihood should study Torah and afterwards pray for a livelihood. Certainly his prayer will be accepted. Nachman miyuman. 98, a man should not sell the first item he purchased. Nachman miyuman, a man should not sell the first item he purchased. 99, one who intrudes on the livelihood of his fellow man is called an evildoer. 100, no man would come to hurt his friend if not for the arrogance in his heart. 101, crumbs are conducive to poverty. Crumbs are conducive to poverty. 102, a wealthy person is the aspect of male, and a pauper is the aspect of female. 103, pain, the eyes, is a sign of damage, brackets, with brackets, 103, pain, the eyes. Pain of the eyes. Pain in or of the eyes. Alternate text, toothache, is a sign of damage. 104, for all attainments, whether it be wisdom, wealth, or children, one must engage according to the laws of nature, but ask for mercy from God that he be successful in the matter of his engagement. Second part of money, Nachman miyuman. Second part of money, mamon. 1, a year which is a year of business is a good sign for physical health. 2, one who is passionate about working the land comes to one of 3 things, either spilling blood, i.e. murder, or leprosy, or drunkenness. 3, through fear and kindness one is saved from fire and merits a livelihood. 3, with brackets, through fear of heaven and kindness one is saved from fire and merits a livelihood. 4, when Torah arbitration decreases. When Torah arbitration decreases, through this income decreases, and so too the opposite. When Torah arbitration decreases, through this income decreases, and so to the opposite. 5, through the finding of Torah sources for rabbinic traditions, large income is delivered into the world, with brackets, large income is emanated into the world. This is because there are various things that we don't find a reference to them in the scriptures of the Torah, and the sages of blessed memory labored to find them some sort of basis. 6, sometimes God brags about the upright of the nations in front of the Satan, so that he can give livelihood to Israel without accusation. 7, through the longing with which a person craves to be buried in the land of Israel, through this comes great income. 8, for a feast of a mitzvah, a person should trouble himself, even to chop wood, when splitting the wood, he should have the intention that he is splitting and separating out the evil from the good in the tree of knowledge. Through this he will merit to have a livelihood. Through this he will merit to a livelihood. 9. Through repentance, livelihood comes easily. 10. One who fulfills the maxim, your friend's money should be precious to you like your own. Through this he merits to pray with intention of his heart, in his heart. Through this he merits to pray with intention in his heart. 11. Great is one who benefits from the exertion of his hands, for he recognizes the honor of God, what angels don't know. 12. According to the changes that are done by the angels. For example, sometimes they are sitting, sometimes standing, sometimes they are female, sometimes male, and other such differences. So the bounty that comes from heaven varies. Sometimes fire, sometimes water, sometimes stone, and so other endowments. All these variations are manifest in the world and in man. Also, the will of a person changes according to the variations. Sometimes he wants one thing, and sometimes he wants something else. 13. Nachman, miyuman. 13. A person's livelihood is according to his marital match. 14. According to the elders of the generation, so is the livelihood. 15. Interest detracts fear. 15 with brackets, interest, monetary, detracts fear of God. 16. One who lends on interest cannot find anyone to judge him favorably. 17. One who guards himself from transgressing the command not to envy. Through this, or to yearn, to lust and want what his friend has, not to envy, not to envy. Through this, he is saved from anger, arrogance, and lack of faith that comes in the wake of anger and arrogance. Through this, he is saved from anger, arrogance, and lack of faith that comes in the wake of anger and arrogance. 18. Through faithful business conduct, curses are annulled. 19. One who needs to borrow from others, he is comparable to an animal. 20. Someone who is a middleman, when he wants to intercede in order that an important man will buy an item from a common man, and he sees that his words are not being accepted by the common man, and he sees that his words are not being accepted by the common man, to sell the item to the important man. In that case, the broker should pray that his words have effect on the common man, and he will sell to the important man. And he will sell. He should pray, the broker, in that case the broker should pray that his words have effect on the common man, and he will sell to the important man. 21. One who controls his evil inclination, his children will not become delinquent. Through this his money will be blessed, and through this he will not come to be tested. 21. One who controls his evil inclination, his children will not become delinquent, in brackets, involved with bad society or culture. Through this his money will be blessed, and through this he will not come to be tested. 22. Traveling, literally thoroughfares, the roads, literally thoroughfares, brings a person to lashon hara, evil speech, idol worship, promiscuity, and spilling blood, i.e. murder, and these sins detract one's livelihood. 23. Through the money one gives to the poor of the land of Israel, through this one's money is preserved in his keeping. 24. Fires literally burning comes to the world. Fires literally burning come to the world on account of money used for idol worship to destroy it. To destroy it, meaning the fires to destroy it. That fires come to destroy it. Fires literally burning come to the world on account of money used for idol worship. And I'm saying that these fires come, and now it says in sefer, to destroy it. 25. When a new king or a new minister arises, to destroy it, meaning to destroy the money of the idol worship, probably. Again, 25. Fires literally burning come to the world on account of money used for idol worship, to destroy it. 25. When a new king or a new minister arises, livelihood is renewed and undergoes change. 26. One who has dealings and business with non-Jews at the time of their festivals, or even not at the time of their festivals, but his revenue is from supplying things for their idolatry. Through this, his wife has a bleeding shortly after her ritual immersion. 27. One who makes a separation between a man and his wife. That is, he goes to the man and praises his wife to him. but goes to the wife and defames the husband in her eyes until a separation is created between them. He becomes troubled by his expenses. Now with brackets, until a separation is created between them. He becomes troubled, preoccupied, overtaken by his expenses for food or sustenance. 28. One whose merchandise and estates are scattered and not in one place. Sometimes he is saved through this from having to tear his garments for his deceased. 29. The largest businessman in a city is the light, literally candle of the city. Chapter Miscarriage Mapelis. 1. Due to fear, a woman miscarries. 2. A segula conducive for a woman that miscarriages with stillborns is that she should carry with her a magnet. Also, she should carry with her a piece of wood from the grave of its tzaddik. Also, she should give charity through 3. A woman who is prone to miscarry should carry with her dew water. 4. A segula conducive for one who miscarries is that she should sell her fetus. 5. On account of the sin of needless hatred, a woman miscarries stillborns. 6. Through her lust for food and drink, she miscarries. Now, one second part of Mapelis, miscarriage 1. A woman who miscarries stillborns should not go with golden jewelry. 2. The grinding of flour and kneading. The grinding of flour and kneading of the matzah of Passover is a segula conducive that miscarries. Is a segula conducive for someone that miscarries with stillborns. Chapter Informer Moisir. Here it says Masur. Informer Masir. Informer 1. One who informs on his fellow man ends up being a vagabond, metultul, wandering around. Again with brackets, one who informs on his fellow man to Gentiles ends up being a vagabond. Enemies rise up against him. He experiences himself that which he wanted to bring upon his fellow. All those who depend on him fall, and the family of the one he pursued takes his greatness. 2. One who informs on the tzaddik loses all his possessions. 2 with brackets, one who informs to Gentiles on the tzaddik loses all his possessions. 3. It is permitted to kill an informer, in brackets, to Gentiles. 3. It is permitted to kill an informer to Gentiles. 4. It is forbidden to deliver even an evildoer to execution. 4 with brackets, it is forbidden to deliver to Gentiles even an evildoer to execution. Chapter Mashke, beverages. 1. Through theft, drinks spoil. Through theft, drinks spoil. 2. Also through arrogance. Chapter Mashiach, Messiah. Second part 1. Through the stories of Tzaddikim, the light of the Mashiach is drawn into the world. Much darkness and suffering is dispelled from the world. And also one merits to attractive clothing. 2. Through repentance, the spirit of the Mashiach wafts upon the harsh decrees of the nations, literally kingdoms, and annuls them. Through 3. In the future, Nanach Nachma miyuman. Nanach Nachma miyuman. In the future there will be a generation in the world that will be totally righteous, for through truth the end will come. 4 with brackets, through truth the end of the exile will come. 5. Through keeping the Shabbos, one draws upon oneself the light of the Mashiach, also through repentance. Chapter Moihel, one who performs the circumcision. 1. One must seek out a Moihel who is a tzaddik and heaven-fearing, for when the Moihel is not good, it is possible that the child he circumcises will be unable to give birth. God forbid. Also, when the moil is not good, Through this, the child can come, God forbid, to falling sickness, epilepsy. 2. A woman who is unable to conceive should gaze upon the circumcision knife immediately following the circumcision. 3. The mohel gives the circumcised child understanding in the learning of the Torah. The mohel gives the circumcised child understanding in the learning of the Torah. 4. The commandment of circumcision has the power that resides in the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, high priest. 4. The commandment of circumcision has the power that resides in the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, high priest. 5. One who is born circumcised, it is certain that his power of imagination is good and proper. 6. One who does acts of kindness, the name that he bestows will endure. For this reason, before naming a child, one should do kindness, and through this the child's name will endure. Nachma miyuman, famed, chapter famed, mefursam, famed. 1. There are famed leaders whose fame is mainly created through dispute. 2. A person is tested in order to make him great and famous. 3. Through strife, it happens that the lesser students become famous before their time. This is the aspect of miscarriage, that the infant emerges into the air of the world before his time. This causes poverty, and sometimes causes deaths. God forbid. This is sefer hamidos, the book of traits, letter Mem, chapters Merivo, Momon, Mapeles, Musir, Mashke, Mashiach, Mohel, Mefirsam, Merivo, contention, Momon, money, Mapeles, miscarriage, Musir, informer, Mashke, beverages, Mashiach, Messiah, Mohel, someone who does circumcision, Mefirsam, famed, Nachma miyuman, Nachma miyuman.